welcome. My name is Carol Reese. I'm a gardener. I've been a gardener a long time, as you can tell by the color of my hair. 45 years as a gardener, and I've loved every minute of it. I like dirt under my fingernails, as you can tell. Today, we're going to talk about healthy lawns in Tennessee. So, let's talk about lawns. How to choose the best grass type for Middle Tennessee. Most of your retailers, your Hoopers, your Co-op, your Tractor Supply, your Walmarts, they will have mixtures of grasses that will do well in this area. These are a list of what you're going to be exposed to: tall fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, perennial ryegrass, Bermuda grass, zoysia grass, and how to choose the best grass type for your Nashville lawn. There's a website, if you want to take this picture, and I do hate these pictures, that help you choose grass species. It will lead you to a site on the internet that you can put in your conditions, and it will tell you what you're most likely to succeed with as far as grass in Middle Tennessee. This is, if you want to write it down, it's on that thing, alistturf.org or tgwca.org. That will help you pick out grass types for this area. Tall fescue, that's the first one. Tall fescue is a bunching grass. It's primarily a cool weather grass. Now, all these retailers, they're going to mix up a bunch of grass seeds to try to get you the best possible coverage for your lawn, for your area. So, with a bunch type growth habit, the tall fescue is moderately drought and shade tolerant, and it's adapted to a wide range of soil conditions. Kentucky 31 and Alta are the historical go-tos. These are the mothers of all the grass seeds that you're going to see. Seed mixes are prepared and sold in stores. This is a cool weather grass, and it's a good choice for sun and part sun. The difference between a cool weather grass and a warm weather grass is the conditions under which it will successfully grow. Your cool weather grasses are your fescues, your bluegrasses, and your your rye, perennial and annual. They grow fast. They fill in the holes. The ryes. The warm weather grasses are what you typically see in a place like Florida, southern Alabama, southern Georgia, southern Mississippi, South Carolina. The names of them, when we're going to cover it, is Bermuda grass, centipede grass, buffalo grass, and wiregrass. In the north, those grasses are weeds. They grow by virtue of two things: a rhizome and a stolon. Both of a rhizome and the stolon are modified stems. And as they grow, the rhizome grows underground. The stolon grows above ground. At each node, it's capable of generating more grass, more blades of grass. So underground, it's generating roots and grass. Above ground, it's generating roots and grass. And that's the difference between the cool weather grasses and the warm weather grasses. Primarily, when you're looking for grass, you're looking for something that's going to cover the ground. You guys, most people like that expanse of green. And we're looking for something that covers the ground. At my house, the ground is covered with weeds. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. This is the best tall fescue grasses for this area. These are the names you're going to see on the bags when you buy your grass at Tractor Supply or the Co-op or any of the other big box stores. We'll cover Kentucky bluegrass. It likes it a little cooler than what we got here. For those of you who are new to the area, July, August, and September, it is going to be hot. It's going to be humid until the atmosphere burns off every available ounce of water. And then everything's going to go brown. Yes, ma'am. Kentucky bluegrass is a little bit more tender than your standard tall fescue. It's going to require routine irrigation to supplement the state's natural rainfall. July, August, September, we may not get any rainfall. That has happened in the past. I think it happened last year. And I know for a fact it happened the year before. Medium to high density sod-forming species produces rhizomes, but no stolons. So it's going to have underground modified stems, but it's not going to have above ground modified stem. If that's confusing, think about that air plant that grows, the plant that has all the little babies. Those are stolons. If those were under the ground, they'd be rhizomes, like a iris or a potato. The rhizomes under the ground. Your average, I have pulled wiregrass up out of the ground that was over 12 inches deep. And the dying gasp of that piece of grass was to flick a piece of dirt into my eye. Every time. So yes, absolutely. And some of them go deeper than others. But the rhizomes will be under. And that's just primarily at this point for identification, or if you were going to, that information would be handy if you were looking for an herbicide to have a specific action. Two disadvantages are fairly shallow root systems of the Kentucky bluegrass. Bluegrass has shallow root systems, so it's not going to have a lot of reserve when it comes to uptake of water and retaining water. A shallow root system means that those roots aren't down in here where there's more water, they're all up here. And that's important on several levels. One is, with a shallow root system, you're going to get a lot of growth at the surface. You're going to have to dethatch more often. If you have more than a half inch, we'll go into that later, but take my word for it, you're going to have to dethatch more often. And if you run into a dry patch, if you run into a heat patch, this Kentucky bluegrass will suffer more than other grasses because it just doesn't have the root system to withstand it. That's why you buy this stuff in mixtures. So when your Kentucky bluegrass is going, I give up, then your fescue's going, I'll take over. So that's the rationale behind that. Here's some of the names of your Kentucky bluegrasses. It's in your handout. I don't really know the difference between every one, so I really can't expound on it. Jack, you have anything to say? Okay. Fine leaf fescues. These are your red fescues. It's like you have your tall fescue, which is your bunching grass. You also have a fine leaf fescue, which is what you see when you see grasses growing in heavy shade. Your fine leaf fescues will grow in shade. They are a bunching grass. They don't have stolons and rhizomes. They will be in your mix that you get in that bag that's got a name that I don't know right now, but they'll be in. Perennial ryegrass. Yes, ma'am. Perennial ryegrass. That's in your mix. It grows fast. It greens up, but it won't survive. Also, annual ryegrass. Perennial will last longer than your annual, but it won't last forever. It's in your mix to green it up and keep it green until the other grasses can develop into the spaces that it occupies. Hopefully when the annual or the perennial ryegrass dies, your tall fescues can take over. That's the rationale. Useful in establishing a good stand of grass in that they will cover the ground quickly, prevent weed competition, and provide a good cover for the slower growing tall fescue. In the top inches of your soil, there are thousands of weed seeds, all different kinds. So they're always there. But if you can cover it so they can't germinate, so that's what you're doing with your rye, your perennial rye. In that mixture, they're covering the ground until the tall fescues can come in and take over to prevent all those weed seeds from germinating. because you're going to be giving it fertilizer and you're going to be giving it water and you're going to be providing all this great sunshine, and those weed seeds are going to go, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So, perennial ryegrass is a cool season grass that cannot withstand severe heat. So you plant it, and then come July, August, and September, it's going to disappear. If it's an annual, it's going to disappear forever. And if it's a perennial, it's going to also probably disappear forever. But hopefully by the time the ryegrass dies, you'll have a good stand of fescue or bluegrass. Zoysia grass. Zoysia grass is a warm weather grass. You don't plant that in September, October, or December. You plant that in the spring. You plant it by sprigs or plugs or stolons or sod. And it likes it hot. So in the spring, you plant it and it's ready for the summer. And it will take the heat and still develop nicely. Unfortunately, though, when you want that nice green plush carpet of grass in the fall and the winter, it's going to go brown. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people like the warm weather grasses because they're cushy. Even though they're brown, they're thick, they're cushy. You know, they give a real nice cover. They're short. When you mow because they do have rhizomes and they do have stolons, which are generating new root systems, when you cut them, they fill in, but they don't like it cool. It's not a cool grass, it's a hot grass. So if it stays cool for too long, you'll lose these too. And they're higher maintenance. In this area, your warm weather grasses are higher maintenance. There are some very successful Bermuda grass lawns in the area. I don't know if any of you live in Las Casas, but there's one on Valley View that you can see. And I watched that guy over the course of several months plant one sprig at a time on his hands and knees. And I was very impressed, but I didn't say anything. I just watched him do it. Over time, I passed his house all the time. One sprig at a time. So, if that's what you want, some people really like grass. If that's what you want, I'm impressed. Now, zoysia grass is drought tolerant. It's pretty much designed to grow in places like Florida where you have a lot of sand. You're not going to have a lot of holding capacity for your water in that kind of soil. It's more shade tolerant than Bermuda grass, and it's a very slow rate of growth. So that's your zoysia. Bermuda grass. This is a stolon. This is a stand of Bermuda grass. That doesn't look too bad. These are seed heads. So theoretically, this is seeding itself when you let it get to this high. But most people will not let your zoysias, your Bermudas, any of that get that high. I think the mowing height on that is 2 inches. Bermuda grass, very aggressive, sod-forming species with both rhizomes and stolons. So this forms a sod, rhizomes and stolons, plus it looks like it's sending up a nice little bit of seed heads. It's tolerant of drought and traffic. So would you say that this is the kind of grass that's grown on those golf courses?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a variety of this. But there's a lot of money in grass, so those guys are really looking at breeding programs for grass. Does anybody over there know what kind of grass is grown in the test plots out at the Ag Center? Okay. There are test plots, and I think they're labeled at the Ag Center on John Rice Boulevard.
I got 6.
Okay. So you can see the difference, and they're right next to one another. I think they're in the front of the building, the main building on the road. So if you want to see the difference. Okay, centipede grass. Look, it's a little bit thicker leaf. You might prefer this look. Slow growing, sod forming species. Spreads laterally by way of stolons, has no rhizomes. So it's only going to be spreading above the ground with those little stolons. Centipede grass produces a medium textured turf, light green in color. Says it resembles that of a Granny Smith apple. The species grows best in full sun, fair shade tolerance, and is adapted to infertile soil. So full sun would be 6 to 8 hours a day. Shade tolerance would be when you have a creeping shade in later in the day. You don't have to have all day sun all the time. So it will tolerate some shade. Does not grow well in alkaline soil or in sandy soils, and that's when it is handy to get a soil test. I thought I brought some sheets. I only got half of them. You can get the sheets online if you need it. If you're going to do a soil test, dig up your soil that you want tested. If it's an area like this, a lawn, dig a hole there, dig a hole there, dig a hole here. Just take multiple holes, dig holes. Pull the sod back so you're not putting organic matter in your bucket. Take a spade full of dirt, put it in a bucket from each spot. Carry it down to the ag center. They'll put it in a box for you. They'll send it off to the testing lab, and they'll tell you, you tell them on your sheet that you fill out, which you can get online or you can get it there. They'll tell you what you need. There's independent labs that'll do it too. But no matter what you're going to plant, vegetables, flowers, grapes, grass, you can get the soil tested and you'll put down that I want to plant grass, and they'll tell you what you need to do to the soil to get it to do well. The alkaline soils is an issue. You're not going to have alkaline soils if your soils are sandy, but if you've got sandy soil around here, I want to know where you live. Let's see. Does not grow well in alkaline soil containing large populations of plant parasitic nematodes. If you have had a large amount of tomato plants in a place over time, you're probably going to have nematodes. The only thing I know of to get rid of nematodes is to plant marigolds. There's an ingredient in the root systems of marigolds that repels nematodes and makes them go away. So that's why you don't plant tomatoes in the same spot over and over and over and over and over again without replacing the soil. It's relatively maintenance free compared to Bermuda grass. Turf grass growth habit. Here's your stolons, here's your rhizomes. Above ground stems, stolons have nodes from which new plants develop. Below ground stems, rhizomes, also capable of producing new plants. Very important because they store energy and they can fill areas that you've had grass die out for one reason or another. They'll fill in those areas. Both Bermuda and zoysia grass have stolons and rhizome growth habit. Maintenance. For regular grass, you're going to need full sun. And that's good for perennial ryegrass and Bermuda grass. But remember, perennial ryegrass is not forever. Medium shade tolerance, tall fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, and zoysia grass. How much time do you want to spend working on your lawn? This is a big one for me. I don't know about y'all. Low maintenance is your tall fescue. Medium to high maintenance is your Kentucky bluegrass, perennial ryegrass, Bermuda grass, and zoysia grass. That's your call. I'd rather be in the flower beds, but y'all. Cool season turf grasses are best germinated from seed between 59 degrees and 82 degrees. So you want to plant these in the fall when it cools down a little bit. So September, October, December, or September, October, November, December. Kentucky bluegrass and the fescues grow best when the air temperatures are cool. Late August to mid-October is an excellent time to plant your seed. Planting seeds of cool season turf grasses in late winter or early spring also results in poorly developed seedlings that may not be capable of surviving hot, dry weather in summer. Sorry. You also want to keep them moist. Once you plant that grass, you're going to want to keep it moist, and you're going to want to protect it. We'll go over what you're going to protect it from in a few minutes. Warm season grasses, turf grass seeds germinate best between 68 and 95 degrees. So those are going to go in late spring, early summer. Seed plugs or sprigs of Bermuda grass, centipede grass, or zoysia grass. These are by no means the only grasses that exist. There's something called buffalo grasses. There are grasses that are suitable for the Great Plains. There are grasses that are suitable for the West Coast. This is just here. You should plant between May 1st and June 30th to allow plants adequate time to mature before the fall frost, when they go from green to brown. Yeah. Tips to keep birds from eating your grass seed. Use motion sensor sprinklers. Add a physical barrier, such as they have mats that you can put over it, and they will decompose over time so that the grass will come up and the mat will go away. It's usually made out of an organic material that rots away into nothing. Mulch over your seeds, but don't cover them too far, or they won't get sunlight and germinate the way they should. Spray liquid bird repellent. I have never used that. I've used liquid plant or animal repellent. It's usually made out of dried blood, dried bone meal, and other noxious materials. Enjoy. It stinks, my God, it stinks. Use reflective objects. All those CDs that you will never listen to again, it's a good way to use it. Set up fake predators. Set up real predators. Use noise deterrents and put alternative food options. I wouldn't put alternative food options. I got this off the internet. I would not put up if you put alternative food out, you just get more birds. Yeah. Or use a scarecrow. The Indians would put a platform in their gardens. The Native Americans would put a platform in their gardens, and that's what the kids were supposed to do, was sit out on the platform and make all the animals go away. Which is not, yeah. In Tennessee, sod is often installed throughout the year, as long as the planting bed is not frozen and the weather's not extremely unfavorable. There is a sod farm at the corner of Cherry Lane and Sulphur Springs Road, if anybody ever wants to see those little watering things go over, and they just grow grass and then cut it off the ground and carry it off. Many producers will not harvest or ship cool season turf grass during hot, dry weather. Again, July, August, September, nothing. It's not uncommon to install dormant Bermuda grass or zoysia grass sod. Several weeks or months may be required before a newly sodded lawn can withstand traffic. In that amount of time, you will be watering. You will be watering. Soil pH. That's where the soil test comes in. Slightly acidic soils with a pH between 6 and 6.5 are preferred when managing turf grasses in native soils. Soil test available at the local extension office. There are also private companies that will do, and you don't have to go to this extension office. If another extension office is handy to your purposes, you can go there too. Results of tests will indicate what amendments are indicated and how much amendment to apply. Soil depth and lawn development. If you don't have 4 inches of soil, forget it. Forget it. You can tell in July and August, you can tell where the rocks are under the soil in people's yards in your neighborhood just by driving by and seeing the green lawn and then a brown spot. There's a rock under there, and it's close to the surface. In the plain states, you have grass roots that go 4 and 5 feet into the soil. And if you don't have 4 inches of soil, just plant something else. When you're planting grass, you're going to have to prepare your seed bed. It's best to put your organic material in before. It's best to do it before you plant the seed or before you plant the sod, because it's harder afterwards. Footprints in your soil. The soil should be relatively loose. Footprints should be no deeper than 1 inch, and stones more than 2 inches in diameter should be removed. Soil depth, again, 4 inches. An actively growing turf grass plant usually contains more than 70% water, so you're going to have to water. Best to water in the morning, 1/2 inch at a time. The deeper you water, the deeper your roots are going to go. They're going to go after that water, which is good in some ways. Most of this water enters the plant through root hairs. As water moves throughout the plant, it carries with it essential mineral nutrients needed for growth and survival. There's a whole plethora of nutrients. The big ones are NPK. That's what you're going to see on the bags of fertilizer. That's nitrogen, phosphates, and potassium. The rest of them are micronutrients. You'll have a medium amount needed, and then you're going to have micro amount needed. You don't need to worry about those so much.
Which one number do you want higher?
If I was going to go with fertilizer for grass, I would just go with 10-10-10. Just stay middle of the road. That means that for every 100-pound bag, there's 10 pounds of nitrogen, 10 pounds of phosphates, and 10 pounds of potassium. That's how they do that. Because of their ability to produce new cells, buds, leaves, tillers, and stolons at or just above the soil surface, turf grasses tolerate repeated defoliation by mowing anytime, which is essentially pruning. You're pruning your grass every time you cut it. The rule for pruning anything, never cut off more than 30%. So if you want to cut your grass to 4 inches, you wait till it's 6 inches tall. For fescue, you want to let it grow to 5 to 6 inches if you're going to cut it to 3.5 to 4 inches. Keep it high. When you keep your grass high, that's what's keeping the weeds out from germinating underneath it. If you cut it low and you have little bitty bare spots, you're going to have weeds germinating all over the place. Don't worry, the seeds are already there. Your weed seeds are already there. 2 to 2.5 inches for warm weather grasses, and you let it go to 3 to 4 inches before you cut it. Watering, yep, I didn't do that right. Hang on. Here, it's in your handout. Here's your grass type. There's the height to mow at and how high to cut it. I'm running over as I normally do, so I'm going to go fast. Fertilizer, soil test will tell you what you need. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen make up 90% of the material in grass. And NPK, that's nitrogen, potassium, and phosphates are the macronutrients needed for good growth. Think of those fertilizer nutrients as just like a vitamin. Think of it as a vitamin. It won't grow well without it. Other micronutrients are also necessary. Don't forget the lime, but you're going to need a soil test to know unless you rely on one of those $10 soil test kits where you interpret the results yourself. Dethatching. When the roots get too bound up at the surface, the plant will stop thriving. So this is a dethatcher. You run a dethatcher over it, which is just a deep rake. You can do dethatching with a rake, but you will work yourself to death. Cool weather turf grass should be dethatched in the fall or the spring if it needs it. You cut a little piece of it, you pull it up and you look at it, and you got to have, if you have a 1/2 inch of dead material at the surface of the soil, then it's time to dethatch. Otherwise, leave it alone. You don't need that heart attack right now. Which is why I don't like grass. She's been to my house. She got elderberry bushes. Small areas can be dethatched by hand. Raking larger areas usually require equipment. Another thing that requires equipment is aerating. First time I saw this, I thought, what animal pooped all over my yard? Compaction can limit the root growth of your grasses. And it can impede infiltration, nutrient penetration, and the exchange of CO2 and O2 between the soil and the atmosphere. Mechanical aeration will alleviate this. It's just a little tube on a roller, and there's lots of them, and you dig them down and they pull big plugs out of your soil and throw them up on the surface. Now that's the idea. If you want to incorporate more organic material into your lawn, that is the ideal time. That's when you throw out compost. People say that you can't get compost into your soil top with a stand of grass on it, but you can. If you've core aerated and you throw out compost and rake it in, then as it rains, as you water, that compost will wash into those holes. So it is possible. Usually you do it when you're going to reseed and renovate your lawn in the fall. If it's a fescue lawn, if it's a tall fescue, which is primarily, well, that's one of the things we have around here. Just start exercising and lifting weights so that you're ready to go out there and do all this stuff. The reason people roll their lawns is because after they throw down the seed, they want good soil to seed contact. None of those seeds are going to get planted automatically by anything. They want a nice compact. there's a fine line between too hard to grow and soil to seed contact. You know, there's hand raking and water ballast roller work well in small areas. A large tractor-drawn cultivator, heavy steel drag mat, or plank drag are effective when preparing to plant large areas. The planting bed will require future rolling or dragging if footprints are deeper than 1 inch. My mother used to take a mat that you, at the door, a doormat with holes in it. It was a rubber thing that went like this, and it had holes for the soil to drop down through when you raked your feet over it. But she used to take that and throw it on a chain behind the yard tractor and throw her seed down, and then she'd pull that over. So be inventive. You can do this. Top dressing. Uniform broadcasting of a thin layer of sand, topsoil, or finely granulated organic material such as compost over the turf surface. Sand, topsoil, or compost. My favorite is compost, always. That's always going to be my first go-to. Y'all do what you think is best. Especially after core aerating. Pollinator protection, this is the last one. When you spray herbicides, well, primarily pesticides, not herbicides, because when you spray, you can leave a band between your flower area that you're spraying with herbicides or pesticides and your lawn area. Whatever you're spraying, if you leave a band between that's not sprayed, that's spray-free, then your pollinators are less likely to be affected. You know, herbicides don't kill pests. Pesticides don't, unless there's some noxious ingredient in there, like really noxious ingredient that would probably hurt you too. But 2 to 3, this said 2 to 3 feet wide, but you just want to prevent your pollinators from being exposed to whatever chemical you're spraying. And that, my friends, is the end.